Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to the UBC TALKS webinar about urban biodiversity parks as method for actively increasing biodiversity. My name is Maija Rusanen. I work at the UBC Sustainable Cities Commission and the City of Turku, and I will be the webinar moderator today. And my colleague Adhan Maharamli will help with the technical moderation. So before we dive into the topic of the urban biodiversity, I will tell a bit about what UBC does. So Union of the Baltic Cities is the leading network of cities and municipalities in the Baltic Sea region. And today we have over 70 member cities from 9 countries. And we work through 8 thematic commissions focusing on sustainable urban development, urban planning, youth, health, culture, safety, education, and business. So we address quite a lot of different issues that are important for the local administrations. And UBC Sustainable Cities Commission, who is organizing the webinar today, has its secretariat in Turku, Finland. And our role is to create city-to-city connections and facilitate peer learning and also provide inputs to policy development to create systematic change for long-term urban sustainability. And we help also cities to locate external funding that would address their challenges related to climate work and green transition. And these UBC talks are one of the ways that we bring up good examples from our member cities and one platform for exchange. And we organize these around 4 times a year. And the UBC Sustainability Action Program is the backbone for our work. And we aim towards a more inclusive, result-oriented, impact-driven and dynamic city network. And we aim to work together towards a more sustainable, green, safe and resilient Baltic Sea region. And biodiversity is one of the key goals in our Sustainability Action Program. And today we will take a look at the concept of the Urban Biodiversity Parks, which will be piloted. The concept will be piloted by the City of Turku, and Turku will establish the Europe's first biodiversity park in the neighborhood of Skanssi. And after getting to know what Turku is doing, we will have a look on what 2 UBC cities, Malmö and Riga, and their activities, how they enhance urban biodiversity. And after that, we will have some time for questions as well from the audience. So the webinar is being recorded and all the attendees are muted, but you can post your questions in the Q&A box. So please use that. And now let's introduce the speakers. So we have today Annika Pöyhtäri and Selina Raunio from the City of Turku, and they represent the Urban Biodiversity Park project and will share a bit where we are at the moment with the project implementation. Then we have Per-Arne Nilsson from City of Malmö, Senior Environmental Strategist, and then Line Krikke, Lead Project Manager from the City of Riga. A bit about the Urban Biodiversity Park project. But first of all, why we are here today. So we all know that the loss of biodiversity and the degradation of nature are global problems, but the action must be taken locally to address the needs of the local species and habitats. And cities have really important role in this work. And we really need to find new ways of working so that we can protect and restore biodiversity in urban areas where the habitats are being lost due to rapid urbanization and the growth of our cities. And the biodiversity aspects should be integrated in all steps of urban development projects, from like planning to construction and maintenance. But that's not only enough if we in the local administration recognize the importance, but we should also raise awareness about the importance of biodiversity at all levels of society to ensure also public and political support for its protection and enhancement, and also encourage local communities and citizens to take their own actions to protect biodiversity. And furthermore, we of course have to engage the private sector in the activities and and increase their understanding what is the impact of their own activities to biodiversity and get them committed to these efforts as well. And so Urban Biodiversity Parks project had received funding from the European Urban Initiative Innovative Actions funding program, which supports pilots that have been never tested elsewhere in Europe. So it's really a piloting project. And we started the implementation in 2024 and will continue until 27. And the project is led by the City of Turku. We have really great local partnerships, including like different universities and other expert organizations and some companies as well. And in addition, we have in the project 3 transfer cities, Malmö from Sweden, Košice from Slovakia, and Neapolis from Greece, who then aim to transfer Turku's solutions to their own cities. So you may wonder that what is the concept? What does the Urban Biodiversity Park mean? So we see that as a novel approach to addressing biodiversity loss and enhancing nature's diversity in urban green spaces. So it's not only about protecting nature, but really actively and intentionally increasing biodiversity. And the focus is, of course, on local plants and species. And we see that this concept is suitable for cities of all sizes and especially suitable for areas that cannot develop significant biodiversity on their own. So these can be, for example, brownfield areas which are heavily modified and degraded by human activities. So there need to be taken some actions to really make the conditions more favorable for biodiversity. And it's not only good for the nature to establish biodiversity park, but they can be also really attractive outdoor and recreational area for residents where citizens can learn about the nature. But now I will give the floor to Annika and Selina to explain a bit more about the implementation in Turku and where we are after 1 year of piloting in the Skanssi Park. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Maija. Just a minute. We are at the same computer as you can see. And here we go. Yes. So, hello everyone. My name is Selina Raunio, and I'm a project coordinator in this Urban Biodiversity Parks project. And I work in City of Turku. And a little bit about my background. I'm a culture producer and studying design, so I'm not biologist, have to say it out loud at the start. And here is Annika with me.
Yeah, hi everyone, nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Annika Pöyhtäri. I work as a project manager for the Urban Biodiversity Parks project. And my background is in horticulture and in landscape planning. So I have quite versatile background, but the studies are from there. And that's why I'm really interested in the topic.
Yes, and this project combines many different things, but now we are focusing the experiences after 1 year of piloting this biodiversity park concept in Skanssi Park. So, yes. As Maija said, the funding is for the pilots that have never tested anywhere before. So this is an experimental project. And a little bit about the background and how it began. The biodiversity park concept was identified as an opportunity to enhance biodiversity in cities. Jere Nieminen, who I jumped a little bit. Jere Nieminen, who was starting at this project, was visiting in India, and he saw this biodiversity park concept there in New Delhi area, and came back to Finland, head full of thoughts and ideas. And he talked with our landscape designer Johanna Salmela, who has realized that Skanssi area is unique and we want to do something with it. And it's already like rich area, like have good natural things, but it has a lot of potential. And at the same time, this funding program opened, and Johan and Jere went to the Maya, and they had this idea about this whole urban biodiversity project. And it also combines suburban vision of the city of Turku and other cities program and strategies as well. And now our aim is to be a flagship destination in Europe for nurturing and increasing biodiversity. Maija told about the biodiversity park concept, and in Skanssi we have 20 hectares area, and that will be our pilot area, and the focus, like Maija said, is in protection of local species. We are trying and doing a replicable model for other cities in Finland and in other countries as well. So after this project has ended, we have this kind of model that other cities can establish their own biodiversity park. And we are also testing and studying and developing can these parks be a place for compensation for the companies. And the biodiversity park is also a learning platform. So we have various educational levels, different age kids that we are we are making them this park as a learning platform, and we are making learning materials them as well, so they can in future spend their classes in the park. And at the same time, we are trying to do advancing participatory nature management methods, and we have resident groups, events, and volunteer activities and workshops. So big thing in biodiversity park is that not we are doing it ourselves in the city of Turku, but we are taking the residents and other groups to make it with us. And of course, we are always trying to have new things and gathering experience in the city planning and in the commissioning and implementing biodiversity nature management. So that is also one big thing that we are doing in Skanssi. And this is a future map. It's master plan for Skanssi area. So there will be new residential area for more than 6,000 inhabitants. Is being built next to the biodiversity park. So there's this blue line at the left of the map. That's the biodiversity parks area, and this other section is for the new residential area. So you can a little bit understand what is the perspective of things. And Skanssi, there's this little tiny map on the right corner. It's about 7 kilometers from city of Turku, center of Turku, and it has our park plan. We have made this management and implementation plan for the Skanssi park, and we have made this with citizens and researchers and specialists, and it was made before our urban biodiversity park started. But we have estimated 800,000 budget for the investments of the Skanssi park. And we have 21 different zones, and each zone has its own individual management plan. And we have outlined critical actions to combat biodiversity loss in the park. And those actions are written there, but in next slides, I have some examples of them. So as you can see, it's wide area, but we are not doing actions to other every zones of it. So there are few zones that we are gonna left as they are, because as I said before, there's already great nature in the area. One thing what we are going to test in the park, it is experimental lime meadow. We are developing new approach to create habitat for lime-loving plants. So we are making a dry area of limestone meadow that will be established on a slope that was created in the park when we have taken trees down, and now we have this great slope that we can test our lime meadow in it. I have to say this picture is from Malmö, as you can better see. So we have great examples somewhere already. Then we are increasing the amount of rotting wood. As you may know, the rotting wood is the foundation of living forests, and it supports thousands of species and regenerate the ecosystem. So it's really important to have rotting wood, but we don't have this kind of dead wood in forests enough. So one thing is to have it more, so we have a lot of actions to have lot more dead wood in Skanssi Park. We have no specific target for the amount of dead wood, but the biodiversity program of City of Turku has written some amounts that is good to have the basic, at least for
Cubic meters.
cubic meters per hectare. Yeah. Then we are planting a new growing rare deciduous trees. These trees are general in other part of Europe, but as you see, know, Finland is a large and long country, so we don't have these kind of forests a lot of in Finland. So it's important to plant these kind of trees here. And local strain is going to be used in planting. So aim is to also ensure that the understory vegetation develops on its own to match that on the elm chrome. Here are a few pictures from the Skanssi Park. And last example, what we are doing, we are going to restore sun-exposed dry habitats. The Skanssi is on ridge, and it's we have only few sandy ridges of the Turku region, and the Skanssi Park was actually used as a gravel extraction site until the 70s, and now it's have been largely overgrown, and now we have restored it and cut the trees and plant these species that lives in heath, and now we are hope that it will also attract warmth-loving butterflies and other red insects. So these are the few examples what we are doing, and now we are going to the first pilot year, and it's examples what we have done in the first year. Annika will continue from here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So, like Maija mentioned, the project started about a year ago, so in March 24, and last autumn, the kind of practical actions started. And the first thing to do was to establish a local seed accumulation area. That happened last autumn, and the sowings took place in November. There's a photo from the sowings on the up left corner. So on this local seed accumulation area, we are focusing on rare natural plants. The seeds of the plants have been collected from the region of Turku, so they are the local strains. And now this will be the first year that we will see how the seedlings are popping out. And last week, actually, we went there to check the situation and to think about the upcoming growing season and what are we expecting from the maintenance point of view regarding that. So it will be a really interesting year for us to see how it all grows. This year the focus will be on weeding, so we are trying to kind of support the rare natural plants growing and to take out the weeds that are not wished to be in there. Here you can see two aerial photos. So the one on the left is from the previous times, and the one on the right is right after the accumulation area was established. One might think that how is this increase in biodiversity? I've also gotten some amazed comments that, okay, so you have gravel there now. But this is also one topic that we need to address and to communicate to the public, that these things are not happening on their own, and it will take time for this area to function as a kind of seed bank for the other areas in Turku as well. So the aim is that now the natural plants will be growing in there, and later on, within few years, we are able to collect seeds from this area and then sow them to some other areas in Turku. So this is really a seed bank for the city of Turku. One thing also is that this used to be a landscape field, so people have been able to go there and pick up annual plants or annual flowers. And now this is also one thing to communicate to the public, that they should not go there and take out the flowers anymore, but we will offer another area for that nearby. Then there's one case and example, the dog training area. So we used to have dog training area on the ridge, and that meant that there was some underground tunnels and other material in there to train the dogs that are finding people from ruins. This is a groundwater area, so now it was decided that actually it's not good to have those ruins in there, and that's why after quite long discussions within the winter time, we decided that we will take out all the structures that were there, both underground and above the ground ones. And like Selina mentioned, this also gave us really nice opportunity, because in the original plan, in the management and implementation plan from the 2022, we already had the idea of setting up experimental lime meadow. But the location, the original location for this lime meadow was a bit different. But now, as we got this new area after the structures were taken away, we actually have really nice area now here, a nice opportunity to create the lime meadow on this slope. So this is also something that we of course knew already from the start, but what has become also visible, that things are changing, and the plans and designs are you cannot really set the plans and say that we have decided in 2024 or 2022 that this will happen, but then later on things might happen, and then we need to rethink, and so we need to have courage to change our plans as well. So that's why we wanted to take this case here. And in here you can see this again, before and after photos. So the dog training area used to look as it looks on the left-hand photo, and now, as you see, the slope has been cleaned and it's really open currently. But like I said, we will establish the lime meadow there, so it will have vegetation in future. Then about the participatory nature management. So last year we formed a group, a nature group. We are calling them the Skanssi Biodiversity Park Stewards. Up until now, about 50 participants have been enrolling to the group. There's young people, adults, seniors, families even. So we have really nice, good and a versatile group of people who are eager to work with us in Skanssi Park. And actually, just yesterday, we started to build up a traditional fence together with this group. There had been more than 10 people participating in the workshop yesterday evening. And this afternoon, we will continue with the traditional fence. So these are really nice situations where we can also tell what we are doing, why is the scenery changing in Skanssi, and then at the same time people are actively participating to the thing as well. So this has been really nice way of working. Then about the learning platforms, like Selina mentioned, we have several educational institutions working with us, and they are constantly, of course, gaining experience on the park and how it can be integrated into teaching at different levels. So we have high school students, we have in future probably like elementary school students, also nursery children, but also higher education students. So there will be a big versatile group of people and children learning from the biodiversity via our biodiversity park. Within the project, this learning material will be prepared and it will be open material, of course, for everyone to use. So that's also really a nice thing. Last year we had those high school students there working or removing invasive species. This year they have been raking. There's a photo of that on the left. So they were removing the moss from our sunlit slopes. And also they have been sowing the local plant species in there. They have been building up fences and they have been taking out the litter. So many different kind of activities they have been taking part in. And their teacher has been really glad because it's always nice to go outside with the students. Nowadays, the studying is often indoors. So this is really nice change for them.
And I have to add, this is the picture of the sunset slope. So this is going to be the heat environment, what I tell earlier about.
Yeah.
So we have removed this moss and now it have more space and light. Yeah.
Then about the evaluation and monitoring, that is also a big thing for us. So of course we want to understand and know how our doings are affecting. We are conducting the evaluation from economic, social and environmental perspectives, as probably quite often is happening. The evaluation is carried out periodically and we are measuring the impact of the activities. And by doing the evaluation, we are trying to answer the questions such as what, how, and why. Also, we are focusing on the landscape structural features and the development of habitats. So we are not actually focusing on the species quantities. That's not measured. It's really difficult to measure. It would lead into really high amount of the data and unfortunately we do not have resources to go through it all. So this is the way how we are now assessing the biodiversity. We have 3 focus areas: the impact of the restoration work on the biodiversity. Then we have evaluating the stakeholder engagement. And then finally, we are focusing on the feasibility and replicability of the methods used. So this will be evaluated throughout the project, of course, but then at the end of the project, we know more about it. And I have to say there's still this misspelling of, it says reproduct something. We have to change that before we are sharing this, this PowerPoint to you all. Yeah, last year the collection of baseline data started. One of our partners is the biodiversity unit from the University of Turku, and they are responsible for this baseline data collection. The same organization has been also organizing 2 BioBlitz events. So we had hundreds of participants and over 1,000 species that have been identified during those events. And they took place last year in June and also in August. And the findings from those events are, you can check them from iNaturalist platform. This year, the biodiversity unit is continuing the insects and butterflies collection. Also, eDNA studies are beginning, and we are constantly monitoring the changes in landscape and habitat. Also, we have this one spin-off of archaeological masses. So we have 2 small areas where archaeological masses were brought, and it's not a scientific research, but we are just kind of monitoring that what pops out from old grounds.
Yeah, they've been bring out from the city of Turku.
Yeah.
Because they're digging up the city, and always when you put your gravel on the city of Turku, there's something archaeological there. So we have this great chance to check what species are coming up those masses.
Yeah. And then now this will be the first year when our multi-professional field evaluation is taking place. So we will organize a workshop in autumn. We actually go to Skanssi and discuss and see how things are evolving. So this is kind of an annual meeting that takes place as well. And then in addition, we also wanted to test if an endangered insect can be translocated into a new area together with the plant that it's feeding on and lays its eggs on. So last year, our partner Block Garden moved or translocated this Lathyrus linifolus plant to Skanssi Park, and we were hoping and expecting that this one moth would move together with it. So we already had that plant growing in the park, but there was no knowledge on the moth living in there. These plants and the moth, they have been there now since last year. Last year, as you can see on the photo on the left down corner, we have seen the moth in the park, so that's good thing. And now the testing continues, and of course this year we will again monitor if the moth is still there. Then lessons learned. We have had we were just talking about it yesterday, the pace has been really fast. So we have done many things within the winter and many practical things as well. And I think now this year, during the summertime and also in August, we are able to kind of slow down a bit and to think what we have been doing. But these are the main lessons. Do not take the first no for an answer. So this means that as we are doing new things, we need to work on getting people involved, and also it's easy to talk with people who already understand what we are doing or who are already kind of into what we are doing. But then, of course, we have many stakeholders who would like to do things as they have always done. So that's why we need to remember this. And that leads into being patient. But also we need to be determined. So that is one thing to learn as well. There's lots of new information available and not only one solution. So this is also something that we need to understand. Luckily, we have lots of experts around us. So it's really nice that we can talk and think, and then one by one, we need to take decision, and also we shouldn't be afraid of taking those decisions. We are, of course, aiming for success, but also sometimes everything is not going as it was originally planned, and that's also something that is part of this kind of project. Also, the working method from design to implementation, if I'm talking of the actual practical implementation of the Skanssi Park, are varying from zone to zone. So some things like establishing a dog park needs really strict plans. But then if we are thinking of some other issues like setting up a lime meadow, that might be another way of working. And then the communication is also, of course, really important. Selina is kind of the main communicator in our project, but of course we are all actively taking care of that as well. Then just quickly the next steps. So I'm not going through all the things that have been written in there, but as you can see, many things are happening, and all the investments they should be taking place before February 27. So actually, it means that by the end of 26, probably we have done it all, because we need to take care that implementation of a park is quite not so easy during the winter time. By the looks of it, everything is running smoothly. So we are confident that everything that was planned will happen, and even maybe a bit more as well. And then around the practical stuff, we are having this ongoing process of analyzing our doing and building the relationship with the local communities, and also the evaluation and learning is taking place all the time.
We are right on our time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annika and Selina. We have actually a couple of questions for you, so we can take up those now.
Okay.
So first question would be that what would be the difference to implement such park in a non-wild area, which already might have some built-up structures and maybe polluted soils as well? So that was kind of the first question, and there is a continuation question to this, and that is this project already resonating in public debate that is on the local newspapers, and is there some resistance to this project? So what kind of resistance? So first, like that, how
was the term non-wild area that was?
Yeah, like I guess that area which doesn't have that like nature itself, but has maybe built up structures like or polluted soil, so maybe old like brownfield area or something like that, so which is doesn't have like a forest or nature area already.
Yeah, actually this area as well, it used to be a gravel pit, so it means that human effect has been there already for years and years or decades. There has been fox, what are they called?
Fox cages, they have
been. Yeah, and these kind of things as well. So it's not actually a really wild area. Also, even we have been investigating the polluted soils as well in the area because of those dog ruin area structures that were there. So this is kind of a nice mixture of both nature and human effect. So I would say that definitely it's possible to set up this kind of area in also non-wild area, and actually even the concept of a biodiversity park is based on that it will not be, or it's not suitable, or the best areas are not wild, but actually they are that kind that have been already affected by human. So this is the main idea of the concept.
Yeah, in New Delhi, where it's this biodiversity park, I have heard it's really brownfield area, and it's a great success now. So
yeah, and nowadays we have learned that actually in urban areas there's quite a lot of good biodiversity, and often it's related to brownfields. So just go for it, I would say. Then about the community or the
public debate.
Yeah, the public debate.
Or is there some resistance to this project?
Of course, there's always resist when City of Turku do something with public money, but not so much actually. And we have had really good conversation with our residents, for example, in Facebook, when we have had good questions, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? And we have great opportunity to explain, and people usually understand what we are doing. So no big debate actually.
Yeah, I guess mostly like positive like comments, and this has raised like quite a lot of like interest and among like different kind of stakeholders. And then other questions still maybe in this, that has a successor has been agreed for the area's functions, so maintenance, participation, monitoring when the project ends. So what kind of happens when the project ends, and how the activities will be continued, especially when it comes to maintenance, participation.
The park itself will be part of the parks of the City of Turku. So City of Turku will be the responsible unit of taking care of it or maintaining it in future. This is one thing as well. We are constantly learning about the maintenance of this kind of area, and our aim is to establish and also to maintain it in that way that it's possible for a city green area maintenance unit to take care of it in future. So this is one thing. Then about the evaluation and the monitoring of the biodiversity on site, that's a bit more difficult one, because of course we don't yet know the resources in future for the research. So that is something that we need to start discussing during the project, but at the moment we don't know the future of that yet.
Yeah. Okay, but thank you, Annika and Selina. Now I think we will move to the next presentation, and then we will see still in the end if we have time for a few more questions. But then we have the Per Arne Nilsson from City of Malmö. So please.
Yes, hello. Now I see.
So Selina, if you can stop sharing and.
Okay.
Can you steal it from me? Because
I think it stopped already.
Okay.
Can I start sharing then?
Yes, you can start sharing.
Oh, no, yes. Thank you very much. My name is Per Arne Nilsson. I'm a senior strategist at the environmental department in the city of Malmö. And Malmö is also a proud member of Union of Baltic Cities, and especially we are engaged in the Sustainable Cities Commission. We are also, of course, proud member of this as transfer partner in this project. So I will tell you a little bit about what's happening in Malmö and our thinking about urban biodiversity. Now I failed to share this.
We can see the presentation. You just have to, I think, activate the window so that you can change the slides.
Okay. No, it doesn't show that. Should I stop sharing? No.
I think you go where you have the presentation. You have to kind of activate the presentation.
I can see if it can do.
I can also, if you stop sharing, I can also share your presentation. So
Okay, yeah, we do like that then.
Yes.
So welcome to Malmö. Can you take the next?
Yes, wait a minute, I'll share. Okay. Now.
Now, yes. Just a few words about Malmö. We are Sweden's third largest municipality in terms of population. We are around 370,000 inhabitants, I think now. And as you can see, we are the gateway to Sweden from Denmark, and since 2000 we have the bridge, so we have easy access. You can take the next one. And if you look at a map of Malmö, you can see that around 50% of our area is the sea. Around 30% is urban areas, and 20% is the best farmland in Sweden. So we are one of our challenge is to maintain biodiversity and develop more biodiversity, but then we also have to have new ideas on how to integrate biodiversity, not only in nature protected area, but also in the urban development. You can take the next slide, please. And we have high ambitions and goals for biodiversity. We have an environmental program. We also have a nature conservation plan, and our comprehensive plan is a lot about biodiversity. And we also work a lot with the global development goals in Agenda 2030 and Swedish environmental goals. So we have the goals, and the main goal is Malmö with rich biodiversity and healthy ecosystems. You can take the next one. And some examples on how we are working to increase biodiversity in Malmö. One example that we have done for some years, but it's continuing, is turning lawns into meadows. We used to have a lot of lawns, but we have more and more meadows instead of lawns, and that makes much better conditions for a lot of biodiversity, both plants and insects and butterflies and birds and so on. You can take the next one. This is another example that it could be on around streets and included in small green spots as well. Next one. And one thing that we are working quite a lot with now is to transform the old industrial parts of Malmö. A lot of our industry and industrial activities was around the coastline in Malmö. We have for some time the world's largest shipyard, for example, in Malmö. And what you can see here is some part of that area. We had to transform it to something new. We had a European Housing Expo in 2001, where we also worked a lot with implementation of biodiversity in urban development. But for example, now we are transforming one of the old and very polluted basins, wharf basins in the area to an area with rich biodiversity, but also better conditions for people, as a marine park, you could say, where we hope that nature want to take part in the city, in the area. You can take the next slide. We also work a lot with the marine environment, and we have one important place for that is the Marine Education Center, where we try to educate people, young people, older people, schools. We have the World Maritime University in Malmö that once a year take all the students to this marine education center for some days to learn about life in the sea as well. So it's very important place for our work with the marine areas. And we can also see that for example, the bridge to Copenhagen, there was a big debate of the impact of this bridge, that it should be bad for the life in the Baltic Sea and in the sea in general. But we can see now that maybe one of the biggest ecological services is all the millions and millions of blue mussels that is sitting on the under the surface on this bridge. We also had one of the first windmills parks in Sweden in the sea, and we can also see that that's also been a place for marine life. That is, we can't fish in that kind of areas, so they are like protected in around in this windmill park. You can take the next one. And we also work a lot with including biodiversity in the urban development. In the one of the pictures in the left, down in the left, you can see a picture from a city district called Augustenborg. That was one of the first of its kind, built around 1950 as a model for, well, a more modern society after World War II. After some decades, they had problems with flooding, for example. When it came heavy rains, there was a lot of flooding. So that city district have been remade as a eco city district, where we had worked a lot both with green transformation, but also with social integration and so on. And on the right, you can see some of the modern buildings where we are working to integrate biodiversity in the urban development, for example, on green roofs, but also in other ways. So we are working to integrate biodiversity and in the city in different ways. You can take the next. This is another example of urban nature. This used to be one of Europe's largest limestone quarries, but it was closed down in, well, 40 years ago or something like that. And then there was some discussion what to do with this old limestone quarry. But now it is a nature reserve, and it's very, very unique. And it's also became like a Grand Canyon in Malmö. So it's very unique and rich in biodiversity, this old limestone quarry. You can take the next picture. Segerpark and Beyers Park. This is our main areas in this biodiversity parks project from our side. Beyers Park is a quite old park that has where we have worked with rewilding it like 25 years. It started 25 years ago when the local Agenda 21 group asked the city to, they wanted to have it rewilded, and that has been very successful and continues and is used by a lot of different purpose and has become quite rich in biodiversity. In front of that, we have Sege Park. That's an old hospital area that's now remade as a new housing area with more than 1,000 new apartments will be built there, and that's one of our areas where we worked a lot with sustainable urban development, where you can live climate smart, but also have a lot of biodiversity included and integrated in the area. We work also a lot with circular economy, for example, and other things. So we think that this will be our main area. And to make this area, Sege Park and Beyers Park, as a test bed and maybe a front runner for urban development with biodiversity, we also have partnerships with our local library in the area, because the local library in this area, the city district is called Kirseberg, the larger city district, and the library has always been an important meeting place for the citizens in this area, and they are very keen on working together with using the library as a urban nature room where you can find information about biodiversity. You can have workshops, and we could have BioBlitz, for example, together and preparing and including people in the area to take part in these activities. So that's one of our main activities in Urban Biodiversity Parks project from the Malmö side. You can take the next one. As a part of the project, we also like to test an index that United Nations have developed like in 2023, I think. We think that what we can see, it's not that used yet in Europe, but it's has been other cities around the world have worked with this index. So we think it could be interesting for us to test working with this biodiversity index. We can see that it's quite a lot of information that we have to find for doing it, but we think it could be an interesting thing to do. Next slide, please. Then we could also mention that one of the things that have been tested and developed in Malmö partly is the principle 330-300. It's a professor, Cecil Konenidijk, that for some time was professor in our agricultural university close to Malmö. And that means that everyone in Malmö should be able to see at least 3 trees from their home, schools or workplace, and that all neighborhoods should have at least 30% ground cover. And 300 is that all residents should have a maximum of 300 meters to their nearest green space. And these principles is now very used around the world for many cities, and we think it's important, and it's also very used by politicians in Malmö and around the world, because it's an easy way of seeing the importance of trees for climate adaptation, for example, when it's heat waves, it's very important to have trees in the cities. And we are working a lot with trees in Malmö. I can mention that more than 50% of all trees in Malmö used to be elm trees. And a couple of years ago, we had a Dutch elm disease in southern Sweden, and that killed almost all the elm trees. So we are working a lot with diversification also when it comes to tree. We want to have different kinds of trees in the city, so that the same thing couldn't happen again. You can take the next slide. Yes, that's one of our rare species in Malmö, the green spotted tods. We have a lot of unique biodiversity in Malmö because we are where we are, and so we have a lot to take care of and develop further. Thank you.
Thank you, Per-Arne. You are really doing impressive work in Malmö, integrating biodiversity aspects in many kind of urban development projects. I think we will have to move to the next presentation so that we don't run out of time. So we will then see in the end if we still have like time for questions. But thanks a lot, Per-Arne. And so now we will move to Riga, and Line Krikke, you're welcome.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to share my presentation. Please let me know if it works.
Yes, now we see it. Good.
Great. Okay. So my name is Line Krikke, and I work for the Riga City Development Department. And I will share our experience on development of two documents. So one of them is a policy planning document, and the other one are guidelines. And both of them have, one has a focus on biodiversity, and for the other one, biodiversity is an important part of it. So why do we want to bring more nature in the Riga city? So we are looking at three aspects in right now. So adaptation to climate change, safeguarding and promotion of biodiversity, and we would like through these actions to increase availability of green infrastructure for Riga's residents. We have carried out several mapping exercises through Life Latest Adapt project. We have looked at the ecosystem services, we have looked at green infrastructure, and to climate change risks as well. And here I'm sharing results of our mapping of heat island. As you can see, Riga is quite affected by this phenomena, and particularly the Riga city center is one big heat island. And another risk factor that we are looking at is flooding. So in this project, we looked only at flooding caused by heavy precipitation, and we are not looking at sea rise level or the rise of the level of the rivers. So here we can see that basically the whole territory of Riga is subjected to flooding risks. And here, once again, we see that Riga city center is particularly at risk from severe flooding. So to tackle these challenges, we are currently developing a Riga City Greening Plan for period 27-31. So this is a policy planning document with specific policies and measures, and it's covering the whole territory of the city. The first draft will be ready by the beginning of the next year, and we are expecting that the Riga City Council will approve it by August 2026. So the overarching goal of this policy planning document is to enhance Riga's resilience to climate change by using nature-based solutions and by creating high-quality public outdoor space. And another goal of this plan is to involve private actors, so residents, in the development of green infrastructure in their properties, but as well in the city's properties. So to achieve this goal, we have set out 3 expected policy results. First of it is Greener Riga. And here the result would be better and more green infrastructure in public and private properties. We, first of all, before getting to more green infrastructure, the aim is to safeguard the existing one and to take better care of it as well. Another aspect here is implementation of nature restoration law and how we can achieve the goals that are set out in this document for the urban areas. So we're looking at the urban green area and tree canopy cover. And what is another challenge under this expected policy result is involvement of residents and entrepreneurs. And here we are looking at how to help them to be a participant in the development of green infrastructure, both in private and public spaces. How can we support them by developing maybe financial tools or material support, and of course education and information campaigns and preparation of different materials will be very important to achieve it. So the second expected policy result is climate resilient Riga, and here we are looking at the 2 previously mentioned risks, so heat island and stormwater. So here we will develop measures and nature-based solutions that promote decrease of heat island, that make outdoor space more pleasant during the hottest months of the summer, and of course how to reduce the influence of heavy precipitation on the infrastructure of the city and private property as well. And finally, the third expected policy result is sustainably managed green infrastructure. And this is where we are looking at biodiversity. So we would like to increase and promote biodiversity in all Riga's green spaces. And another aspect that we have included in this policy result is management and maintenance of the green infrastructure. So here we will look how do we plan and develop new green infrastructure, and as well how do we maintain the existing one, and how can we improve it to maintain it in a more sustainable manner that promotes biodiversity as well. And another aspect that I would like to share, so in the development of this plan, stakeholder engagement is very important. So co-design or co-creation is an integral part of the plan. Last year we had several events that promote stakeholder engagement, and Riga Climate Assembly is one of them. And this year we have already organized some events as well, focus groups, information day, workshop in a school. But I would like to highlight the experience with the Riga Climate Assembly, as it was quite a unique event. So Riga Climate Assembly was our first climate assembly in Latvia. We had 34 randomly selected participants who represent the diversity of Riga. They met for 5 full meeting days. First ones were dedicated to education of participants, explaining challenges and solutions, and then they worked on development of recommendations. And finally, they approved 41 recommendations by vote. And here are some lessons learned or our conclusions on this process. So the input of Riga's residents and their ideas and is a really valuable material in the development of our plan. So the ideas they came up were like some of them were not something that we would have imagined ourselves, so that's really valuable. Another aspect in the development of these recommendations is that it's really important to involve the relevant actors from the city. So while Climate Assembly participants were working on development of recommendations, we were able to comment them, suggest some improvements, and to explain some aspects. And once the Climate Assembly finished, we were evaluating the recommendations. So we did a mapping exercise to look what of the recommendations are already implemented. Maybe some activities are planned to take place in near future, and what can we implement through this urban greening plan. And now we are moving to policy and measures planning, and we will be linking all the measures with specific recommendations. And finally, feedback and communication with participants is very important. We have maintained communication with participants of Climate Assembly since the event has ended. When we organized this year Information Day, they were invited so we could provide feedback on how are we moving forward. And I think it's really important for as a trust building exercise as well to provide feedback to the participants and to make sure that some of their ideas will be seen in the city in the coming years. And now I will be moving to our other document that we are working on. So it's guidelines on urban biodiversity, but before going into details of this document, I would like to share one of the examples that is ongoing in Riga. So we have this Urban Meadows project. The lead partner here is an NGO, Latvian Fund for Nature, and they have developed already 42 meadows in different green spaces in Riga, and they are covering almost 14 hectares already. And the aim is to have 45 of these meadows by 2027, so we are well on track. In these meadows, we are using local perennial plants, and they are crucial for the biodiversity of city. And of course, these meadows serve as for education as well, which is quite important. We have some other activities to promote biodiversity, which are taking place in Urban Life Circles project, but unfortunately I will not share them right now. But in this project, so Urban Life Circles, we are developing these urban biodiversity guidelines. So here we will be looking how to increase biodiversity in Riga's green infrastructure. We will look at best practices around the world and in the cities which are similar to Riga, and we will develop recommendations for Riga which are appropriate, looking at these best practices. So we would like to improve planning, management, and maintenance of green infrastructure that promote biodiversity. And of course, we'll be looking as well at invasive species. And finally, there will be an aspect as well that will develop guidelines for specific territory types. And here we are looking at parks, tree plantations, natural areas, forests, urban gardens, so specific guidelines to promote biodiversity in these different territories. And the last aspect that we will be developing in these guidelines is the green corridors. So here we want to have a set of recommendations and best practices for Riga, how to create and maintain these corridors. We will look at how can we develop new green corridors in the city, and we will plan more in detail one specific green corridor so we can move forward with implementation. So thank you very much. That's all from my side. Happy to answer any questions.
Oops, I was muted. So thank you, Lena. It was a really nice presentation, and I think you address in your strategies exactly that you need to have the biodiversity aspects included from the from planning till the maintenance, so that we really can ensure that those solutions will be implemented. I think we have one comment or question here. So Greener Riga, interesting objectives and interesting work concerning participation. On this last point, was it difficult to communicate biodiversity as a concept to laypersons? On the planning aspect, could you elaborate about the aspect of a plan versus policy document, in particular? How prescriptive will the plan be? Why have you selected the concept of nature-based solutions in the plan? Thank you in advance. So maybe first about that, was it difficult to communicate about the biodiversity as a concept when you had these participation projects?
So we had opportunity to invite the person who is in charge of this Urban Meadows project, and during the climate assembly to visit one as well. So I think that having a theoretical explanation but seeing more in practice was something that really helped to for the participants to understand. So what is it exactly? Yeah.
And then there was still about the aspect of the plan versus policy documents. So is it more like a plan or a policy document? That how prescriptive will the plan be? And why have you selected the concept of the nature-based solutions in the plan?
So I think it's something a more hybrid animal. So it's a policy planning document with the strategic goals. But then we will have this, I would say, action plan. So we will look at specific measures. How can we achieve our goals? And I think that it will give a lot of input to different projects as well. And so, yeah, more or less perspective, but yeah, more in a hybrid animal, let's say.
Yeah.
And the
Thank you.
nature-based solutions. This idea to develop the plan has been here for a long time, but Riga is participating in this Life Latest Adapt project that is particularly looking at the nature-based solutions and how we can enhance climate resilience. And in the context of this project as well, we now have access to a lot of analysis. So this heat island mapping through satellite data, stormwater modeling. So that is one, and the other one, well, nature-based solutions make sense in long term. They cost less and they provide really multiple benefits. So the policy benefits are quite important. So by developing each nature-based solutions, it's not only helping us with climate resilience, but with biodiversity, by providing more green space or green elements to cities' inhabitants. And as we know, it's really important for their physical and mental health. So it has so many benefits that I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's good to also communicate these benefits. I actually have a question to both Malmö and Riga. That has it been hard you both have had these or preparing these strategies and have implemented actions. So has it been hard to work across like sector and involve, like, for example, construction and the infrastructure management and the maintenance sectors from your cities? That has it been like difficult to work like across the sectors within the city, because we know that sometimes it can be quite difficult also for the local authorities to work like across like sectors, as we kind of used to work in silos. So has it been challenging, and what has been kind of the key things that have helped to work across sectors? And also Turku can respond. So maybe Malmö, if we start from you.
Okay. No, I think it's biodiversity is very visible. So I think it's to work more also in partnerships and cooperation is one of the ways forward, I think. And I think this quite simple 300 has been a global success. So I think there are sometimes a need for tools to include different kinds of actors, and I think people like that, and also organizations and companies and so on. They want to be a part of the solutions and the activities. And I think also urban developers, for example, they can see the benefit of this as well. People want to live in green surroundings with biodiversity around them. So I think there's more value in it than maybe we think of traditionally when we're looking at nature conservation, that there should be protected areas. It could be
it might
more
be something
and more
which
included.
is far away from the citizens, so biodiversity, like these urban environments closer. Then how about Riga? Selina, how do you see?
So in the context of institutions of Riga, so in the development of this plan, we have a working group where everybody is represented.
Yeah.
So right now we are finishing our work on the strategic planning, and we will be moving to more specific actions. So let's see how it goes. But for now, cooperation has been really good.
Yeah.
And for the involvement of outside actors such as builders or developers. So our approach is really to involve everybody. One of the focus groups we organized was with the developers. So we could hear their views, hear their experience, and how they view green infrastructure in general and what are the challenges. So both internally and externally, open communications, timely involvement is, I think, already contributing to a more successful outcome and in general acceptance as well.
Yeah. How about my colleagues from Turku? Do you want to also say something about the cross-sectoral cooperation topic?
Well, I would say that it's important to find kind of the right people or right teams where to start with, and then kind of continue from there. Of course, the stakeholders, the group of different stakeholders, there's really different kind of entities. So it's also important to understand how to talk. So the even like the wording might change from discussion to another, depending on with whom are you talking.
Yeah.
So that's also one thing that we have learned.
Like words, nature conservation or nature protection is not so popular, but if you talk about ecological compensation, that's interesting them more.
So it's kind of finding the right language.
Yeah.
Okay, but thanks a lot for all of our speakers.